Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday, christened on a Tuesday, married on a Wednesday, took ill on Thursday, got worse on Friday, died on Saturday, born on Sunday. So the dark DC nursery rhyme goes. Hey guys, it's CJ here, back with a character bio for Villains Month, and this time for the big man himself, Solomon Grundy. Grundy's seen a bit of a resurgence in popularity in recent years with his appearance in many forms of media, perhaps most notably the Injustice game and a couple other Batman video games, but not many folks actually know about the hulking zombieast, how he came to be, who he was. And his tale is dark, his tale is grim, and befitting of our spooky theme for Villains Month, so without further ado, let's get started. Now, Solomon Grundy has been around in comics since way back in 1942, and is actually a nemesis to the original Green Lantern, Alan Scott, in the Earth 2 universe. And that's right, he's not actually a Batman villain. Although his pre-New 52 origin is very much tied to Gotham City, he has interacted quite heavily with the Lanterns, fittingly at one point becoming a Black Lantern because he's a zombie and therefore very much associated with death. And now his pre-New 52 origin is really, really different. And just to skim through it real quick, because this is his New 52 origin, essentially he was an orphan, his parents both died tragically, although his father was abusive and his mother deserted him. And he essentially kind of sold his soul to a mysterious figure in order for power and wealth, and more or less kind of just was an asshole and abusive himself to the end of his days. He was prone to anger. He was a pretty shitty father and husband, and he ended up actually killing his wife, going back, killing his mother who deserted him, and eventually the townsfolk of Slaughter Swamp just got tired of him, ran him into the swamp, and he stabbed himself to prevent getting caught and died, and essentially, awoke 50 years later and was a zombie. But his New 52 origin is kind of a little bit streamlined. It makes him a little more of a sympathetic character, as they really try to do with a lot of New 52 villains. But so without further ado, here's his New 52 character history. Cyrus Gold was a simple man who lived in the late 19th century, specifically the 1890s, and he was actually just trying to make ends meet. It was a difficult time for a lot of people. This proved difficult, as I mentioned, in his hometown of Slaughter Swamp, where he struggled to provide for his family, his wife and his child. As a result, his wife Penny was forced to make the tough call to sleep with the local leader, Boss Henry, to make ends meet. This proved to be too much for her, and she committed suicide. Driven to madness by the death of his wife, Cyrus vowed revenge. He went on a killing spree Django would be proud of. Literally, it's like a Quentin Tarantino wet dream. He killed Boss Henry, all of his men, all the men working for him, and after that fled into a swamp. He then stabbed himself in the stomach before falling into his death. So that part of the New 52 origin to the pre-New 52 origin is pretty similar. He then connected with the Grey, a fungal hive mind of sorts that connects all fungal life. The nemesis of the Grey is the Green, which is a collective consciousness of plant life, which chose Alan Scott as its champion for obvious reasons, I guess, because there's a little bit of a green connection there. He awoke a hulking and zombified beast. In an effort to track down Scott, he began a monstrous rampage, killing to attract the attention of Green's champion and the rest of the Earth 2 heroes. And the battle between him and the rest of the Earth 2 heroes is actually really, really epic. And I'll mention that more when we get to recommended reading. But now on to his abilities. Grundy is a big dude. He's a hulking beast of a former man and is one of the strongest villains in the DC universe. Probably one of the strongest characters just in terms of sheer, strength. And not necessarily, considering energy projection or, durability, although he's very durable as well. He's just one of the heaviest hitters, hands down. He's also incredibly durable, as I mentioned, and that durability is actually nigh invulnerability. He can take huge amounts of damage without outward pain, without any outward, symptoms, and he can actually heal really rapidly. And he's also a zombie, so it's really tough to slow him down. At one point, he was also actually a Black Lantern, and that was pre-New 52. And to give you guys an example of his healing factor, although it's not really a healing factor, it's just he can heal quick. During the fight with the Earth 2 heroes, Hawkgirl shot him with a crossbow, pretty much from more or less point-blank range, right in the face. And he healed from the wound, in an instant. So he can recover pretty quickly, and a lot of that is the Grey. He didn't necessarily have that pre-New 52, or it wasn't as pronounced. He was just very invulnerable. Now on to some recommended reading. Star Spangled Comics number 13 in 1942 is his first appearance way back when. He wasn't actually featured, so there's not much to go into, but it's worth listing just because it was his first appearance. Now Solomon Grundy 2009. Now this was his own story arc, and once again it's pre-New 52, and it explores his origin a little more, trying to go into who he was and how he was. It's a 7-issue run, and it leads up to him becoming a Black Lantern, which I mentioned, kind of fitting with his history with death. Superman and Beyond number 4 through 7 is a 2012 comic. It was a pretty cool little Grundy run set in the universe established by the Batman Beyond continuity. And he's a zombie, unkillable and undying, so it makes sense that he'd show up in the future. And that's all pre-New 52. So far, the only things he's appeared in post-Flashpoint is Earth 2, numbers 5 and 6, and then 15.2, which then went more into his origin. And this is actually his New 52 origin. And as I mentioned, it's Earth 2, so he faces off with the Justice Society, although primarily Alan Scott for a little bit. Before Alan kicks him off Earth, he actually kind of forces him off to the moon. It's worth a read, even if it's just to flesh out the origin we gave you here. So there you have it. As I hope it's obvious now, his pre-New 52 origin is very different. They try to make him much more sympathetic. He's a pretty interesting character. It's hard to argue that he's actually a sympathetic one, because he had a hard-knock life, but he was a killer in life, and therefore, a killer in death, to put it bluntly. Although they certainly tried to change it up in the New 52 to make him at least a little more appealing to audiences. Anyways, that about wraps it up for me here. This one was a pretty quick one. Grundy doesn't have a lot on him in the New 52 yet, but I hope you guys are cleared up a little bit, and I hope you guys actually learned something. I know I learned a lot researching Solomon Grundy. He's kind of a zombie, so he fits the Halloween theme very well, so I was really happy to do this one, but I hope you guys learned something. So in the comments below, tell me, I guess, do you sympathize with Solomon Grundy? I don't know. Tell me in the comments below what you thought about this, what you think about Solomon Grundy. Do you want him back for more stuff? Because I don't think he's come back from the moon yet, but do you want him back? Whatever, just talk to me in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and this is CJ signing off, and I'll see you tomorrow with the next edition of Villains Month. And I'm trying to, wrap up Villains Month with a bang, so every day up until Friday of Halloween, I'm going to be releasing a new one, and on Friday, I will culminate with a very special Halloween edition of Villains Month. I hope you guys, actually in the comments below, if you want to guess who the Friday Villains Month is, feel free. So signing off, this is CJ, and I'll see you next time.